This is Jay Del Vecchio, and I'm here with Calan Landreth, which is an instructor we've had for us a long time ago, and we've stepped back into working together again because it's great to have him available because he's a very accomplished professional. You're going to learn a bunch of fun things today. So I am going to unmute everybody so you can ask questions as we go along. So don't be shy. And all you, Calan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jay. Yeah, like Jay said, my name is Calan Landreth. I'll be talking about an individual periodized program designed today. It's a mouthful, but just how to, make a workout plan basically for anyone or any group of people as individualized as possible, and kind of show you all how to do that. And and like Jay said, feel free to ask questions. That's probably my favorite part of anything like this is I don't want to just be a boring presenter. Yes, I'm gonna go through a PowerPoint that's slides of words, but I am going to show you all my programming and how I've built these things out. And please feel free to ask any clarifying questions you have. If you see things and you're like, what in the actual heck is that? And why would you do that? Also feel free. I'm happy to answer any of that stuff. And even, if you guys have, hey, I learned this, or I think this, or this about this percentage, or this style of training, by all means, I love that sort of stuff. So feel free. But all right, I'll get into it. So about me, I'm a former two-sport collegiate athlete. Long time ago, I think I actually just hit 20 years since I was doing all that. I've trained a really wide variety of people in various contexts, from youth athletics all the way to I have athletes now that I still work with that are in the NFL, which is a cool experience to get to watch them on Sundays and Mondays and such. And then I've even worked with the elderly and people with chronic issues of illness and injury recovery, things like that, in various settings. Kind of just worked everywhere in the field of kinesiology, pretty much. Currently, I'm a strength and conditioning coach and track and field coach at a university, and that's what I'm doing full time. And then, all right, so the first thing that I'd like to talk about is when you build a program. Oh, sorry. How do I go back there? There we go. Is to always emphasize injury prevention. So some of this and some of these initial slides, I understand anybody listening might be, yeah, duh, I get it. I just always feel a conviction to say some of this stuff and go through this before really getting into program building and individualization and how to do that. But anyway, I always would want to encourage anybody to be very intentional in their progression of technique and loading of external weight, right? So until somebody can do a body weight push-up with external rotation at the elbow and scapular retraction and hold that posture in a push-up, we shouldn't throw them on bench press, right? So being very intentional about that. I mean, gosh, how long has the style of personal training been? All right, I'll see you on Monday. Monday shows up. All right, let's see what you can do on bench press. So I think that thankfully a lot of people have gotten away from that style, and I think that progression of going from, say, body weight and banded work for a beginner to intermediate, being maybe dumbbells and kettlebells get added, for example, up to advanced is barbell work, right? And we're not just throwing people into clean and jerk and snatch week one. So anyway, just to throw that out there. Also, striving to build workouts and an overall training schedule that don't overwork major movements of the body and muscle groups, right? So, and I know that anybody that we train is going to have a different desire in their training. They might want to bodybuild, be an Olympic lifter, power lifter. They might just want to increase general strength or reduce body fat, whatever their goals are. It's just important to program training in such a way that you don't tear muscle fibers in the biceps again and again and again and again in repeated workouts, right? Because we're doing curls, and then we're doing, lat pull downs, and then we're doing pull-ups, and then we're doing, so really being intentional about giving muscle groups and tendons and ligaments through movements time to recover before hitting them again. And I think most people understand that, but really, really thinking through how do I give those, how do I give all those parts of the body a chance to recover from what I just put them through before we go again, right? And there is a lot of science behind that, but it's just up to us to be intentional about how we program it. So then, and this is huge, but including mobility that's specific to the exercises that are going to be done. And what I mean by mobility is like stationary joint mobility, right? If if somebody's going to do a hinging movement, it's really good for them to do a pigeon position, right? A cross leg laying forward, stretch the piriformis, IT band, that sort of thing in the glute to be able to hinge well. Doing some of that active mobility, so that'd be like a rocking pigeon, right? So I don't mean a static stretch before lifting, but and I could go all into that. But being real specific about taking the time as someone who trains anyone to look at what should I have them do to prime the movements of the body at the joints that are going to be working before they do those exercises, right? And then dynamic movement and warm up and things like that. But mobility first, ideally. Okay, so building into that, so your movement and exercise lists. So the way this whole thing builds out, and I'll show you guys an image of it in a second, but you want to start not just with, hey, this is what I've done, this is what I've learned, this is what I'm going to teach somebody to do. That is good, but to really sit down and think of how to categorize all of your exercises that you may have someone do at any point into a real clear category. So say, for example, all the major movements of the body are squat, hinge, lunge, vertical pull, horizontal pull, push, sorry, there should be a comma there, press, those are two separate things. And then core, which you may or may never have heard this, but core is broken up into anterior, which we all think of as core, the six pack, right, or lack thereof, posterior core, lateral core, and then rotational core. And that helps tremendously when we're thinking about how to program core instead of everything being anterior and then just wrecking everybody's anterior core. You can break up your core exercises into, okay, we're going to work anterior, and then the next workout posterior, the next workout lateral or param, or however you want to do it. But then I can show you that. And then just a real quick note here, any gym that has weight machines, if you're ever going to train anybody on weight machines, assisted weight machines, they can hit all of these major movements of the body except for hinge and lunge. And anybody can tell me, but I've never seen a machine that is a hinge machine, like a deadlift movement, right, machine. So that's something that has to be done with body weight to external weight added. And same thing for lunge. There's not, I've seen a real fancy one, but typically there's not a machine for the lunge movement in a gym. So to that being said, and I can show that as well, but if you're ever going to have to program for anybody that's predominantly going to use machines and not external weight, then you can do that. You just have to supplement in, or I would recommend supplementing in a hinge to teach people how to bend over and pick things up at minimum, and a lunge, because that's your split single leg movement that you otherwise aren't working. Even to the example of, say you're working with somebody who's has some sort of chronic issue, whatever that may be. Maybe they're obese, maybe they're elderly, maybe they're recovering from ACL tear surgery, whatever it may be. And they're at the point where they can do, say, a lunge movement. They need to be able to step off a curb, right, or step up on a curb, or go downstairs. That's why the lunge is so important, other than just we should do lunges. So Anyway, just something to think through. And then you'd fill all of those categories then literally with every exercise that hits those movements that you can think of. And this is just a way to really dial in, okay, here are my options for squats, right? So I'm going to list high bar back squat, low bar back squat, front squat, overhead squat, so on, lateral squat, so on and so forth. And then you can plug those into your programming as you go, depending on what anybody wants or needs. And then finally, you can add any accessory movements. Generally, that would fall into a push-pull category, and I'll show the big picture of that. And everybody has different thoughts on that, but generally, right, our bodies push and pull. So the most fundamental way to categorize things is in a push and a pull. And that way, you're not working the same movements and muscles on the push day that you are on a pull day, and then it helps break those things up. And then you can add things like plyos, agility, speed, etc. Whatever somebody needs. I trained a guy a couple years ago that was wanted to climb one of the tallest mountain peaks in America, and so I adapted his some of this accessory stuff for him specifically and what he needed. When I train collegiate track athletes, I take out agility because they don't need it. And their plyo and their speed are very specified, and I can show that to what they need, right? So just being able to specify what someone needs in that way. So the big picture point is you can have, generally speaking, a very static build of the exercises of weightlifting that people do, for example, but then be very specific in the accessory and plyo, agility, speed type things that you do with them. And then finally, and then I'll show it, you'd fill these categories with every exercise possible, right? So again, you train somebody who says, I want to be a bodybuilder. I want to go up on stage and flex in front of people. I want to be a CrossFitter, which they probably should go to a CrossFit gym. I want to be a power lifter. I just want to get really, really, really good at bench press, back squat, and deadlift, right? Or whatever it may be. Then you can say, I can do that for you, and then you can adjust things. So I'll tab out of this and I'll show y'all if it'll let me. Oh, there we go. Okay, I just hit escape. Got it. Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay, so here's a big picture look at this, and I'll show you a couple examples. So here's just an individual. Let me see if it'll let me just. Oh no, whatever. Okay, so here's just a build. So what I was talking about when you create your exercise list, it would look something like this, right? So I have squat, hinge, lunge, yada, 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 okay, up here, and then have those exercises filled in. The fundamental build of this came, I got this, I don't know, close to 20 years ago from the National Strength&Conditioning Association, and then I've just added and built onto it from there. And so as you research and learn more and more exercises, say for anterior core, you just keep adding exercises, those anterior core exercises, just keep putting them in there. The color coding here is not scientific or specific. It's just green is beginner, yellow is intermediate, red is advanced. And that was just another way to think through, hey, I'm not going to have somebody do a GHD sit up, if you know what those are. Go backwards on a GHD with your feet hooked in. It's the absolute best thing in the world, other than maybe max velocity sprinting and tuck jumps, to get a full extension on anterior core into flexion of interior core. It's one of those exercises that if you've got somebody who's at least even moderately sedentary, don't have them do GHD sit-ups until they've done a whole bunch of this other anterior core work, right? Or else they'll possibly tear a hip flexor or something. And that's just the reality of it. So this stuff has to be, even core stuff really has to be progressed into, right? And so anyway, just build built this whole thing out, even to the point of, you know, I would build meal plans for people or just explain nutrition to them. And so then in their nutrition, there's a whole set of drop down menus of, you know, building out, weekly meal plans and things like that. So you can pretty much, and I know not everybody loves Excel, and it's kind of, not everybody likes working with it. You don't have to share this with anybody. You can. This is just a way for any of us who train anybody to have. I mean, this is our cheat sheet. This is how we give information. But it's also built to where you can share it with somebody. So you could do it. I mean, obviously do with any of this information as you desire. But all right. So that's just kind of a snapshot at it. So what ends up happening is in all these categories, then this is the way I did it, is you can source all of these to be drop-down menus to have, say, here's my category of squat. I chose to have that be what this is. It's on a push day. So this is one workout right here. Okay. And so I have a drop-down menu where I can choose what squat I want them to do for that day. Now, say it's somebody who's a power lifter, they really want to get good at back squat. You might program back squat again the next week instead of front squat, for example. And then you might never have them do a single leg squat. And this might be, you know, a hack squat, or it might be, you know, on a Smith machine, or whatever, you know, you believe in programming you should do for them to get them really, really, really good at back squat. It might just be back squat again and again and again. And so any of this can be modified. So if anybody says, they want to be a bodybuilder and they only want to do back, bi, chest, tri, lat, legs, you can, you know, what I'm going to explain is that you can build this however you want, use this information however you want, and build this out and modify it for anybody who wants to train any kind of way. And it doesn't take a lot of effort once you have this kind of setup to just drop it down and pick something else and literally just change things. And you can sit down with somebody and say, you know, and look through this stuff, and they're like, I don't want to do Arnold press, that hurts my shoulders or whatever. And you can, well, then they can't do vertical press, but anyway, all this stuff is adjustable. And then you know, like these things down here, talking about plyo and speed agility, things like that. If you ever want to do that with anybody, or you know, maybe you generally train people that are in their 30s to 50s, but then you get a 16-year-old and their cousin that playing high school football or something, they want some of this, then you can have this and program all this stuff for them too, right? So I know everybody's in just varying and completely different places with who they train, but that's the point of this, is being able to modify it for anybody, right? So you put their name up here, that fills into the rest of the sheets. So, you know, you put Joe in here, and then it still is Joe everywhere else. And then and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but so I won't yet, but you can then put any restrictions they have. So yeah, say they've got a labrum tear, you can put that in here. I'll just put labrum LT, and then you'll know, okay, man, I've been training Joe for I don't know, a year, and all of a sudden he has a labrum tear, and I'm training him in strength. Oh, that didn't carry over. Well, I need to fix that, but but that would carry over, and this would also say he has a labrum tear here to remind you that, you know, you don't want to you don't want to be having him do any vertical pressing, that sort of thing. All right.
Yeah, I'd tell you that's awesome. Somebody had asked here, Calan, if I guess they can get a copy of that.
Yeah, I assume that might come. So I'll talk with you, Jay, what that looks like.
Okay.
With all love, grace, and respect, that this is my life's work, as goofy as that might sound. Yeah.
I get it.
But I will not charge some goofy amount for it or anything. I'm not trying to just make a living off it. And no, this is not a sales pitch, by the way. I want to give as much information as I possibly can. I promise you.
I respect that, and I understand it. That's your professional work that you developed over a lot of years. I will say also that we do have a workshop coming up in January, I think it is, but you'll see it in your newsletters, so make sure you check your newsletters. But we are going to have one on writing program sheets, and one of the things I believe that she asked for was people to send in copies of what they're using now, so they can go over the pros and cons and whatever. But this is one of the more detailed, encompassing ones that builds out, and I love Excel, so I'm with you there. So yeah, no, thank you.
So yeah, my answer to that is yes, I will share this with anybody. I would ask, and we don't have to discuss it now, but I would ask for, I don't know, just like something helpful financially to do that. And with that said, I am happy to build any of this for anybody. So like I'm saying, if y'all are training somebody who's wanting to focus on powerlifting and you're like, dang, okay, thanks for this, but how do I modify this for that person truly? I'm more than willing to help with that as well, and build any of these structures out for anybody also. So I'll talk, yeah, Jay, I can talk with you more about that, and if that's something we want to set up and people just want to reach out to me and do that, I'm happy to do that. So
yeah, no, absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, all right, next. So in regards to building a periodized training plan, it's just a fancy term for you have a macro cycle and a micro cycle, right, of total time you'll train that person or group. I'm going to try, they signed up for a year, they signed up for 6 months. I'm going to train them for 4 years, whatever it may be. That's your macro cycle. So then you take that allotted time, and then you make microcycles of 2 to 4 week periods. That'll be on the quiz, but 2 to 4 week periods of training in each major mode of training. Okay, right? You don't want to spend too much time in any one area. You don't want to go hypertrophy for 6 months and not have any variation outside of trying to build lean muscle mass. You gotta mix it up, or else everybody plateaus, right? So. And so then those 4 major modes of training, if you've never heard this, are strength, power, hypertrophy, and muscular endurance. And there's some subsets and shots, off of those things, or shoots off of those things, but those are the 4 big ones to train anyone in. And I'm a firm believer. I know that those terms were those modes of training used to be really specific to just the strength and conditioning, professional collegiate athlete world kind of thing. And now, thankfully, these modes of training and their specifics have spread right to kind of the training of just about anyone, and can be done well for training pretty much all developmental levels of people. And I'll explain how. So then that would include their percentages, sets, reps, and rest periods. So actually, I'll show that to you guys before I continue real quick so that you know what I'm talking about. Let me go actually to the last page and I'll show it to you. Here we go. Okay, so let me move my own, there we go, my own screen. So here's what they look like. You guys can screenshot this if you want, or take a picture with your phone. Pretty much the whole quiz. This is just how I like teaching. I'm not trying to trick y'all or have you take a quiz and be like, what in the heck, this guy didn't cover this stuff. That was what I disliked most in education. And I was a teacher for a long time. And part of it was my motivation to not make education
miserable. They do get a recording of this, Calan. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
They do get a recording of this awesome. The next day, so they can utilize it.
How long do they have to do the quiz?
Yeah.
No. How long do they have to get the quiz done?
Well, if they're part of the group there, the option 2 subscription and so on, they have 30 days.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, good. Well, here it is. So you'll be able to reference this page and get most of what you need for the quiz, because I really believe that these numbers here are the absolute best way to train someone. Now, generally, the debate, if you will, is between RPE and percentage-based training. Okay, so you either tell somebody, I want you today to train at a RPE of 8, and therefore they're in strength probably, right? So whatever those cues are, you're going to be straining. It's going to be very, very difficult. Feel like it's almost the heaviest weight you can lift, and you're going to be out of breath, and you're going to hate me. Whatever your cues are for train at an 8, there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. And people have gotten in incredible shape, in great places of fitness with RPE training. So I don't. My intent is not to speak negatively of it. However, if you really want to specify for someone, you want to use percentage training. And the way it works is you'd get a measure of their absolute strength in something within reason, right? Everybody's different. You can't, and I don't suggest to anyone that you try to have anyone actually do a 1 rep max effort. And I'll explain that how this program works to help you not do that. Generally, I tell even collegiate athletes, I want you to do a maximal effort of up to 10 repetitions. Generally, hopefully it's 5 or less, but I'm not going to have them strive right to 1 rep max something. That's generally how people get hurt. Now, if they end up only, say, bench pressing 1 time and they can't get that bar up again, fine, there's your 1 rep max. But I, if they get 2 reps of something and they barely got the 2nd rep up right, I'm not, as a strength and conditioning coach, going to say, and I'll let them, but I'm not going to tell them you have to now add more weight and try for a 1 rep. And I just think that's important to say in regard to safety of training someone, is to not try to push 1 rep maxes, especially because you can pretty accurately, almost perfectly, estimate someone's 1 rep max with a multiple rep effort in a lift of any kind. Just about. That's not body weight, right? So with that said, strength obviously will be, you're building overall general or overall strength. Hypertrophy is the fancy term for increasing lean muscle mass. Power is lifting explosively. So you'll notice that the percentage is going to be lower. Power is unique because power, more than almost anything, is dependent on the ability of someone, and the only people who are going to train in power are people who are trying to be explosive in what they're doing. And that includes even somebody who is a weekend warrior and goes and plays, co-ed volleyball on the weekend. They should train in power, truly. But and that's a cool thing to learn and apply when you train someone. But that 30 to 70% of their 1 rep max is, nobody's going to train 70% of explosive power, say in a low bar back squat or a power clean or a snatch movement at 70% explosively, right? That takes a lot of work. So generally you're going to start somebody down at 30 and then progress them up into the 40s, 50s, and so on until they could really move weight with velocity up to 70% of their 1 rep max. So anyway, just a disclaimer to explain power. But and then muscular endurance would be in that lighter to moderate percentage with far higher rep ranges, significantly lower rest than everything else, and all the sets. The reason the sets all say equal to or greater than 3 is that the truth is that's just subject to like what anybody can do. There is a total volume, right, that you don't want to push somebody to. But I mean, if you're going to have somebody pyramid up and pyramid back down in their sets, I mean, they might actually be doing, 6 sets. They might be doing 8 sets in total of a lift. So sets is always very, it's more broad, right? But the rep ranges are what are important. The rep and the rest and the percentages are what are really specific to the mode you're training somebody in. So if you want to build lean muscle mass, your rest really should only be 45 seconds to a minute and a half. And the rep ranges, this is why, 3 to 4 sets of 10 repetitions became so popular in training people, because generally people want to build some amount of lean muscle mass. So 3 sets of 10 with, say, a minute of rest, you're in hypertrophy. And so, yeah. So if you guys have any questions about those percentages or anything or any of this, I'm happy to answer it. If this just seems boring and confusing, I promise I'm going to show how to apply it, and I'll do that right now. Okay, so say you take somebody and they're able to do back squat, and you have them do their maximal effort, right? And say they end up doing 5 reps of, well, I don't know, 285. This will auto-calculate a 1 rep max for them. The math for that, I'll show you the equation on another slide, so you don't have to stress of it here, but it's just, it's, weight times 0.033 times reps plus weight again will give you, that's the algorithm to give you the max. So you don't have, guys, I'm not good at math, but I found that algorithm. It works. It's very effective anyway. So it says their max would be 332. Okay, so awesome. So then say they want to build lean muscle mass. You'll go to hypertrophy, and the next time, now that they do back squat and they're training in hypertrophy, they're going to do 3 sets of 12 at 67% of their 1 rep max, which is going to be 222 pounds. Well, what do you do with 222? How do you make that happen? Well, you just tell them you're going to be between 220 and 225, whatever you can handle today. So if you can go up to 225, awesome. If you're down at 220, that's what you do your 3 sets of 12 at, right? And then your weight's programmed, and that's going to program through every mode of training. So somebody is, they're wanting to climb a mountain, and so they need muscular endurance. There's their weight for 3 sets of 15 at 65% of their 1 rep max, right? Or as you progress through endurance, they're real hardcore and they can handle this rep range. Yes, 3 sets of 20 is tough to do with any barbell lift, but I've trained people that can do it. So yes, that would be an advanced, very, very serious person to train. But 3 sets of 20 at 60%, at 200 pounds, so you can reach up into some of those numbers. Muscular endurance goes up to 25 reps. So there are those unique individuals who would train at that level. So anyway, so that would happen with any of the lifts on the maxes page that I've built out here, for example, that have a 0 in the max box, are anything with that's either using a dumbbell, probably not a kettlebell, but maybe a barbell and or a machine like leg abduction and adduction. You can get a maximal effort on somebody. And so your initial training with somebody, this is all built out 3 days in a week for an entire month, right? So it's 12 total workouts. I have this built where every single one of these 12 workouts are completely different mobility, warm up, and exercises all the way through.
I've got
not everybody wants to train like that. It doesn't have to be that way. Like I said, you could repeat back squat every week. You repeat bench every week. You can repeat whatever you want or they want. Just the foundational build of it is here's a great setup of lifts that you can do this on Monday, this on Wednesday, this on Friday, and they're not going to overwork the same muscle groups so severely that they can't recover from them. That's the build of this. And this can be in a 4-day structure. It can be in a 5-day structure. You can do with it, whatever you want. You just repeat these and add them and build it however many days that you'd like. So that's how all that goes.
I got something here for you, Calan. Betty K was wondering, what's the difference between strength and power?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. That's the big one. So the difference is, let me see if I can remove this. All right. So the difference between strength and power is that strength is going to be at 85 to 100% percentage of your 1 rep max. It's heavy. It's as heavy as you can lift within reason for, say, 3 sets of this is equal to or less than 6 repetitions. So anywhere from 6 to 1 repetitions of very heavy weight. And that's, yes, you always want to lift weight with as much volition as possible, or you want to teach somebody to do that. But when they're at this heavy of a weight, they're not going to be able to move it very fast or powerfully, right? However, in power, this is a good example would be, say I have my collegiate, say I have my hurlers I coach right now. In the off season, in the summer, they'll train in strength to build some just general strength, move heavy weight, and they'll say high bar back squat, for example, with the crease of their hip below their knee joint, right? A true hips to heels, deep squat to put, appropriate amounts of good strain on muscles, tendons, ligaments, their skeletal frame for injury prevention and overall strength. Well, once we progress, say even actually to right now, we're November 20th, we have our first indoor track and field meet December 6th. They have now transitioned into power. So their weight, the percentage that they're lifting is going to drop significantly. And they're going to go to a power position, which is the crease of the hip above the knee joint, right? A much less deep squat, and they're going to be more explosive up to where the bar is almost popping off their shoulders. I tell them like they're going to jump through the ceiling, right? That's power. Power is explosive, dynamic lifting of even the exact same lifts, just possibly in power positions when it can apply. Squat's the best example, and then lighter weight that you can really. But other than that, yeah, the rep range is the same. I should have even written it the same. It's honestly equal to or less than 6 for both, 1 to 6 for both, and it's 2 to 5 minutes of rest for both. Because to be able to move 85 to 100%, and you felt this if you've ever trained with that amount of weight, in relation to your own strength, that's hard. You need to recover fully to do another set of 95% of your 1 rep max, for example. Say if you're trying to do two reps, 2 sets of 2, 3 sets of 2 reps, it's hard. So you need that full recovery, and just in that energy system, you need that recovery to be able to do it again. The same is true in power. It's power would apply to, like, if somebody's gonna run a 40-yard dash, and they're going to time 2 40-yard dashes. They really need, ideally, honestly, it'd be even more than this. It'd be like a 10+ minute recovery from their first 40-yard dash to be able to give equal to or greater than the same kind of effort in a second 40-yard dash. That's the principle behind power, is you need a larger rest from this so that your second set of whatever 45% of your 1 rep max, you also can still be, power squatting the barbell like it's going to go through the ceiling. So hopefully that made sense and clarified the two. I know the numbers are similar, but that's the difference. All right. We went over this. Yep. Okay. Okay. So this is just where I talk about the math. And so here's the equation that I just said earlier, right? In order to estimate someone's 1 rep maximum off of a multi-rep effort, and really that multi-rep effort, and it can be different for everybody, it can go up to a lot of repetitions. I've had people that, even though I tell them I really want you to say on a bench press machine, I really want you to try to shoot for a weight that you could only do a maximum of 10 reps on, and then they end up doing 16. You can still put in that 16 rep effort, because now they're cooked and they wouldn't be able to do anymore after that anyway. So when that happens, the algorithm still applies. You can put that they did, a set of 16 repetitions at whatever it was, 85 pounds, and it'll still estimate your 1 rep max for them and fill everything else out, so that you can then train them in whatever mode that you see fit or they desire. What is unique is when, because that algorithm is in this box, right, to calculate their 1 rep max, if say they did a stiff leg deadlift and they only got a true 1 rep effort of whatever 225, it's going to calculate, it's going to do its math when it shouldn't have. And so in this box, you would just manually override the algorithm and just manually put 225 in there. It would still populate the rest of the sheets with the weight they should do in each mode of training. That's the only manual kicker to this automated setup, is just yeah, you would just have to manually put in if somebody does truly get a 1 rep max, and that's fine. And then, you know, that's just specific to Joe, right? And so you copied this and created, you know, other versions of it for, you know, for Susan and for Jake and for whoever, and then that algorithm would still be in that box if they had a multi-rep effort for stiff leg deadlift. So it wouldn't mess up your sheets forever. It would just be Joe's would be like that. And same is true if Joe then in the future ended up doing, you retest his maximal effort and he does 3 reps of 225, you would just need to put this back in here. And the way you do that is just, you can even copy and paste one of these. Excel is brilliant, smarter than we are, right? And will understand that you're actually trying to apply these boxes to this box, even though you copied it from there. Just some Excel knowledge. It'll let you do that. And even if you drag and drop this to all these other cells, which I won't do because you wouldn't want to, you can't max pull-ups. Well, you can if you add, you know, a chain and a plate to them or something. But anyway, you can just drag and drop these, and Excel will know that you're, you know, by dragging this one down, you're really adding this to the chest press boxes, right? So anyway, just a cool thing to know. It's helpful. It was really helpful in building all this out. All right, so what's really great about percentage training is this last thing, right? It makes us look brilliant and feel brilliant when we say, all right, Joe, now we're training in strength at 85% of your 1 rep max, right? Which starts today, right? We're doing back squat at 3 sets of 5 reps at 285 with a 2 to 5 minutes of rest. Let's go. Like, and when you're really specific that way, right? You're more bought in, you're fired up, they're more fired up, and they believe in what you're teaching them. Everything's specific to that mode of training they're in. You do that for 2 to 4 weeks, and then you're like, and then you say, all right, Joe, now we're at, you know, 67% of your 1 rep max. We're training a hypertrophy. We're going to do 3 sets of 8 to 12, you know, of whatever, 255, 257.5, and I'll explain why that's important in a second. You know, so you can build some lean muscle mass, and then we're going to go back to strength, and you're going to get stronger. I mean, that's the balance and the back and forth of it. So I'll show you 2 things that really apply to the big picture of that, as well as the individual motivation of it. So say this number is actually 287.5. What happens with percentage training, and I experienced this individually, is we always get in a rhythm. Everybody gets in a rhythm, right? Of, okay, I'm going to do back squat, and I'm going to throw on the 45s, and then I'm going to throw on the I'm going to add 25s. I'm going to take those off and put on 35s, and then I'm going to have 2 45s, and then I'm going to rep that 3 sets of 10, or what have you. What percentage training does is says, if you get one of those interesting numbers, and say it's not a perfect 285, it's a 287.5, you have to go, oh shoot, now I need to add whatever 10s and a 5 and a 2.5 that I never would have thought to add. And so now my 3 sets of 10 becomes so much more significant and specific to me, and what I'm capable of my 3 sets of 8, 4 sets of 10, whatever it is. Instead of just putting on my 285, I'm going to put on my 287.5. Now that our question always is, how do we get people to break through those plateaus? Man, I can't get this guy, or I can't get myself or whoever to increase their squat max. How do I do it? That's how percentage training is how you specify and get somebody to lift. Yeah, even just the 2.5 pound plates added can make a massive difference. And a lot of us just don't even think to do that or know when to do that. In progressive overloading, right? This does progressive overloading for you basically and balances it. I'll take any questions with that first, and I'll move on.
Yeah, we got a question. Kay was kind of building on this. Which muscle would you use for weight plus 1 max rep? And then she explains on it as far as, is there one general test muscle group to start this evaluation of 1 rep max?
One specific muscle group?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
I would always suggest that if you were training by muscle group, the strongest muscle group in the body is all of posterior chain, right? So back, glute, ham. That's why everybody's deadlift is their strongest lift. If you want to test somebody's absolute strength, traditional powerlifting deadlift is king, if you will. But without really, really good technique, and Jay, I'd love to get on here and teach some deadlift technique too for anybody who wants it, but really, really good deadlift technique, you can do that. Most people don't have really, really good deadlift technique. That's why a lot of people are scared of it, and people's backs can get hurt. But that would be my answer to that. If not, and you want to break things up truly just by muscle groupings, then I mean this. I want to answer your question as specific to what you're asking as you are, but if you break things up into these categories of, say, a squat, a push, a horizontal push, which ironically bench press, chest press should have never. This is the semantics of it. Should have never been called a press. They should be called a push. It should be called bench push and chest push, but because by definition, horizontal pushing that's push, this is press, right? So anything vertical is pressing. I digress, not to confuse everybody or anything, but just for clarification, Arnold press is a press. But anyway, so a vertical press is assessing the strength of someone's traps, top of their delts. And then a push is their strength of their chest and triceps and front delts. If you're doing a horizontal pull, that's the test. Seated row is the test of their lats, their rhomboid, serratus anterior, posterior, and so on and so forth, rear delts. So if that answers your question, this is a way to even if somebody wants to bodybuild and specifically train muscle groups, this is a way to make that happen by training the major movements of the body. And again, you can repeat exercises, but as much as you want or need to. But anyway, I hope that answered your question. If not, please just ask again and I'll do my best to get it right.
No, that's great. And we can always talk about, a deadlift technique proper, because there's no doubt there's some very ugly approaches to it.
Absolutely.
As you and I know. So that could be a whole different thing, but we can talk later about that. Sure.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, so then, that's the last page there. So what I want to show you guys now are just some other examples. Here's a look at an example of annual periodization, right? A macro cycle broken into microcycles. So this was a while back when I trained. Well, this is a while back when I trained. I was a strength coach at a high school, and I built out for all the sports that any athlete was in the school. I programmed for them a structure of when they were going to train in what mode throughout the year, right? And this is fun stuff. And when you get this dialed in, you can just put up on the board. I don't know, maybe somebody in here is a high school strength and conditioning coach or a college strength and conditioning coach. You can map out, and you should, for all the athletes, for example, that do all these things. But this also applies to non-athletes. But this is how you build that. So you put say you get them for a year, and then you put out all the months you're going to train them. Say starting in August, for example. I know this is a school year example, but you start them in August, and then I'm training a girls volleyball player. Okay, so what do they primarily need to train in? Well, when they're in season, power for sure. We want to spend some time in body weight to start them, actually, truly, if you can get them before their season. And then they need to really just alternate between Well, this is wrong. Actually, this should have had more power in it. So I've probably fixed this later and didn't update it, but they should actually, oh no, they end up in power here. Sorry, I forgot. I thought that was red. But they'll want to spend some time bouncing back and forth between muscular endurance to be able to play, the 3, 4, 5, 10 games a week they play sometimes. And if you guys have ever played volleyball, it's exhausting. That start and stop, just like any other sport that's like that. And then they do need some strength. They do. If you want to be able to then be powerful and plyometric and explosive, you do need a base of strength to get to that point. They don't want to spend any time in hypertrophy. If you look at volleyball players, generally they don't have a lot of lean muscle mass because they want to be able to spend as much time in the air as they can. So you take hypertrophy out. Things like that. If you train football players, this doesn't show it well. Track it shows it better. Your sprinter, jumper, hurdlers, and your throwers and your distance runners all have to be tracked differently in their microcycles of training. So they're not all going to be lifting the same throughout the year. They shouldn't be until a point, right? But anyway, so that's a look at how to build that out. So I mean, if you're just training for a person, you just plan for that person. You get them for 6, 9 months, a year, whatever you get them for. And so you can just map that out, and there's your plan. And so then, okay, it's November right now. This football wide receiver DB I'm training is training in power. So I go over to power and I tell him, all right, your back squat today, Joe, who plays football, is 3 sets of 6 at 30% of your 1 rep max. It's gonna be lightweight for you, but you're gonna lift it 100 pounds real explosively, right? And so that's how you would put all that together once you've assessed them and built that out. Any questions? And then I'll show another example of this.
No, we're good.
Okay. So the last thing that I would show here is this is an example of how I built this out for my college track athletes I'm training. And what's different is, say they're going to train in a little bit of hypertrophy. I built in 3 rows instead of the 1 that was just right 3 sets of 6 of 100 pounds, and then multiple tabs of power. So you're going to train somebody for 3 weeks. There's your 3. You're going to bounce between, say, 4 weeks of training, right? You train them at 30% of their 1 rep max for, say, a month for 4 weeks, and then you bounce back into, say, strength, and then you train them for 4 weeks. It's all the same lifts and exercises. It doesn't have to be, but it can, at 85% of the 1 rep max. Then you go, say you wanted to go to hypertrophy, and so on and so forth. Well, what I did with, and actually this was to simplify it for them, but also most people like lifting in a pyramid progressive style. So I just took, say, hypertrophy, made it 1 tab, and put the full range of percentage up here. So 55 to 65%. This would be, well, that's incorrect. Oh, I just copied that over wrong. Well, let's say endurance, because endurance is 55 to 65%, and then 15 to 25 repetitions. And so here it is. Yeah, let me give you a better example. I forgot this is the one that I've updated already. Let's just do strength. Strength will be the easiest. So they would do 7 reps, 5 reps, 3 reps in strength at 85 to 95% of the 1 rep max. And that's plugged in here. So that's how this math works, is these boxes just tie back to the max box on the max page, right? So, 5 reps at 225 gives them that max. They train in strength. So now their workout, and they'd obviously warm up to this, but they're going to end up doing 7 reps of 223, which is, 220 to 225, and then 236, somewhere in that window. And then say they can hit 250 for 3 repetitions. That's their workout. So they just went 7, 5, 3. So that's how all that applies. And so that's just another way that this can be built out, is in a pyramid structure, or an athlete or a client or whoever hitting the full range of percentage and the full rep range all in one workout. So they're in that mode of training, and then boom, there's your 4 weeks of training and strength. Yeah, it's hitting it that way. So there's, there's different ways to go about it. Everybody has their own style, and every person you train has their own desire of how they want to do that. But yeah, that's how that goes. So, also and everybody has different thoughts and feelings and things on this. I will establish with y'all, I am not a registered dietitian, and I make sure I make that clear with anybody that I talk to about nutrition. But I've also built out, right, I went through this quickly earlier, right, with the nutrition pages, but if I know that in personal training, especially, people will ask you for, right, nutrition, or you're just, man, I want to, this person wants to reduce body fat and get healthier. And I know that at least 50% of that at more is dependent on nutrition, not just how well I train them or not. And so, yeah, there's a lot more on this than you would hand somebody, but this is the full picture of breaking down their body type and their energy expenditure. So, are they trying to cut, maintain, or bulk? And then is their energy expenditure, are they sedentary right now? Are they working out really, really, really hard? They're in, heavy energy expenditure. Then their body type, if you've never learned these, ectomorph would be a really, really lean, thin person that struggles to put on mass. A mesomorph would be somebody kind of in the middle who does put on good lean mass. That's all up here. The definitions are up here. And then an endomorph would be somebody who has a larger build, who's heavier, who struggles, has a slower metabolism, struggles to maybe reduce body fat. And then so you decide kind of where they fall in there and what their energy expenditure is. And then I could show it all to you right now, but basically this is all built same way on 7 days a week, and then a per meal. These aren't accurate because I haven't actually tied it into anything, but it would tell them how many carbohydrates and protein and fat, the macro numbers of what they should consume per meal. No, they should not eat 6, 9, and 8. This is just not tied to anything. And then, yeah, just some good advice on things that they should eat and not eat down here. And then, like I said, they can build, the meal plan out from there in this other example. I took it out of there because, okay, coaching at a college, they don't want me to build people's meal plans for them because I'm not a registered dietitian. So I was respectful to that and I removed it. Because, yeah, if I go tell one of my female athletes that she's a mesomorph and I want her to cut, and I put her on, she's a heavy workload where we're training really hard, but so on and so forth, those macros end up really, really low for her because we want her to be leaner. That has created a whole host of problems right in the past, and lawsuits and all kinds of liability things and sadness and struggles. And so things like that. So we're not trying to create that. So I removed it. So that's just stuff, in our world that you have to kind of work with and balance. You can't just throw all that stuff at everybody. So I would encourage anybody to be careful with those things. But yeah, so that's just a quick snapshot of nutrition stuff, but as well. And then, yeah, any other questions that y'all have for me? I'm happy to answer. I could talk about this stuff, obviously to nauseum, and I love it. So yeah.
I can tell you brought in a lot within that hour, and I appreciate it. I know they do too. Anybody have any questions? Because I know a lot of us have workouts we got to go click in with a client here and there, and but we have like 62 seconds left. So
yeah, see, I kept it right under an hour, or right at an hour.
That was beautiful. I appreciate it. This is a big help, and we can always talk about biomechanic demonstrations and so on. Now I just got a bunch of thank yous. One was, have you ever worked with people in their 70s or 80s?
I have, yeah. I worked at a medically accredited fitness center, and yeah, and not just people in that age range, but people in that age range with acute illnesses and cardiorespiratory issues and things. And yes, I have. And so predominantly their work is going to be body weight and or assisted resistance machines, if able, and never training in power, never explosively lifting ever, and really never hitting these huge percentages. What you have to do with them is their strength percentages drop away from this and go to general strength, which is really kind of like you spend all your time in muscular endurance, but with not this high of a rep range. So you would drop strength to these kinds of sets and reps with a significantly reduced percentage load, significantly, right? So even down to into like the 30%, right? But in light sets, light reps, lots of rest. So that's how you do that.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. A lot about form and function more than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. And a ton of thanks and no question, awesome webinar, a bunch of our regulars and some new ones in there, all love it. So nice job. Nice job. Thank you for the expertise, and we'll talk more about a next round of it. Everybody keep an eye out for your newsletters, because we do have some cool ones coming up, and we'll definitely get Calan back to give us some more fun things. So
thank you all for your time.
I appreciate
you, Jay.
You have a great evening. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you.
All.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.